Alright, and we have made it to our next stop on this SpenVenture. We are at Dudley Farm's Historic State Park. Right behind me, of course, is the visitor center and museum, and we're gonna also take a look at around the farm. There's a farmstead just about a half mile up the trail. We're also gonna walk around the trail back in the nature and enjoy God's creation as well. And so we are going to go ahead and head on into the Historic State Park and see what it was like to live on the farmstead back in the 1800s into the 1900s. A lot of farming went on in this area, as well as we just learned about the railroad, also learning about how they transported the different livestock and crops and plantation from the farm here onto the railroad and set out all over the country. So let's go ahead and enjoy and continue this SpenVenture in Alachua County, High Springs, and now in Gainesville. Let's go. Now, the pioneer settlement was more between Alabama, Georgia, and the Carolinas. That was through the 600-mile trail through the middle Florida wilderness, cotton-grown farmers and plantation, and it was also, they settled in many traditional areas during the Second Seminole War. We learned about that. We learned about that over in Fort Christmas, where I was at about a week ago. And it was in 1845 that Florida became a state known as the Sunshine State. Alright, and a farm for generations. Here we are with Philip Benjamin Harvest Dudley, with wife of Mary Magdalene Thompson Dudley. Both lived 1814 to 1881 was Philip, and Mary lived from 1816 to 1880. This was the homestead before the main highways. It was the old road to Gainesville. As you can see, the hardwoods. You got the sugarcane plantation, berry property, different properties owned. And here it is. This is the map of the historic state park, or the state park. So Philip Benjamin Dudley was a farmer, cattle trader from South Carolina. That's who that is up at the top. And he established a farm in 1859, the purchase of 360 acres. This is how it all started. So we go back in time here. And in the early 1800s, one-story boarded beaten frame house. It's a frame house right here. The frame house, by 1901, the family had 12 children and converted the attic into a bedroom for 8 daughters. The farm and process of new buildings were added, including a hay barn. And the hay barn is what we're going to go see here shortly. And it's in pretty much the backyard, just about a half-mile walk. And with the sweet potato house, a milk room, a pump house, and a wagon shed. And now, let's go ahead and learn about the early days of the Dudley Farm. As we start back, it was before then, in 6000 BC. In 6000 BC, Native Americans occupied Florida, North Florida, and Jacksonville, and then that word became the Patanos. There were prehistoric people in North Florida 8,000 years ago. And when the Spanish explorers arrived in the 1500s, and then again, the 1500s, going back to St. Augustine, very historic town, city, really, a very historic city, through the Spanish-American War, as well as in the 1500s. oldest city in the state of Florida. Going through with that, they had the Timucan Indian tribe, and the Tecumsehs gathered fruit and grew corn and beans. Moving forward in the pioneer settlement. Alright, so as we move on into the second generation, 1880s and 1910, this is the timeline of where the Dudley family was successful in the farm and growing. The first synthetic fiber was invented. Kind of looks like a microscope up here. I'll kind of zoom in and show you guys. This was in 1884. And then as well as, here's the Spanish-American War. And automobiles were first mass-produced in 1901. Then we had the first successful airplane flight in 1903 by Orville and Wilbur Wright, who are from Dayton, Ohio, where my sisters live in today. Actually, they live in Xenia, Ohio, but it's about 20 minutes away from Dayton. And they also have a Wright Brothers Museum, Orville and Wilbur Wright, from there. That is in Dayton, Ohio. World War I, 1914, 1918. That was 4 years there. 1916 was 50% of the U.S. population lived in urban areas. And now the Dudley family have a new house. The new house, early 1800s. And his wife Fanny built a new farmhouse to accommodate their expanding family. Remember, they have 12 kids. They had 8 girls and 4 boys. That's a lot of kids. And then converted attic and 4 boys shared a downstairs bedroom. Typical for the time that the kitchen dining room building was separate because the kitchen had a cast iron stove and wood burning. So did not want to start. If there was a fire, they did not want to catch the dining room as well on fire as well as the kitchen. Big disaster. And a lot of the houses back then in the 1800s were wood or log houses. It included a smokehouse, sweet potato storage house, a dairy and canning house, 2 outhouses, a log corn crib, and a barn wagon shed harness house. And then here came kind of the bad news. The boll weevils, which is a very disturbing insect and a pest. From 1910 to 1925, the boll weevils ate its way through the cotton fields, wreaked havoc on farmers' cotton fields, and significantly reducing crops as a result of boll weevil devastation. Tobacco replaced the cotton as the main cash crop at the Dudley Farms. And now, we move on into the 1930s, into the 1970s. So, like I said, we had treatment of diseases with this penicillin. In 1945, televisions came to American homes in the 1950s. 1960s, the first spacecraft was invented to orbit the Earth entirely all the way around. 1961. The Civil Rights Act was signed in 1964, and then in 1977 was the first personal computer, which we call laptops. Moving on into the next 50 years of the Dudley Farm plantation, Fanny Dudley died in her flower garden in 1937, leaving Ralph along with Dora, Winnie, and Myrtle to manage what remained of the cattle, tobacco, and vegetable crops. In 1940 and 50s, illnesses went rapid around the plantation, and their kids got sick from the diseases of working from the farm. And so, the functions in cane grindings, hog killings, and the chicken business. The open range ended in 1949, and fencing was installed so that they didn't have the livestock running all over the place. Now, livestock is like with chickens, cows, horses, pigs, you name it, donkeys, mules. That's what livestock is called. Basically animals, farm animals. The Dudley Farm is in disrepair. In the 70s, only Myrtle and her nephew George were left to run the Dudley Farm. Tobacco crop was discontinued, still maintained a small herd of cattle, and as well as a vegetable and flower garden. Myrtle was the only surviving member of her family, and it fell into disrepair in 1982. December 7th, 1941. A day of infamy. December the 7th, 1941. The Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor in Hawaii. Electrification Administration brought electricity to the Dudley Farm in the 40s, 1940, as well as radio came upon after 1945. There's the radio, right here. And the telephone, plumbing, 1950, and added a bathroom, kitchen, and dining room in the house. Going back along to the railroads, this one talks about 1850 and the days on the Dudley Farm. The railroads connected back to the Dudley Farm. Like I was saying before, it was connected. The Dudley Farm transported the produce and livestock along the railroads here in Alachua County, in Gainesville, Alachua, High Springs area, and along the coast, with P.B.H. Dudley Sr., born near Charleston, South Carolina, a place I want to go visit, too. It's very historic. Also, before the Civil War, labor as slaves, P.B.H. land holdings, he produced 500 bushels of corn and 400 pounds milk of cotton, 8 bushels Irish potatoes, 90 bushels of sweet potatoes, 50 gallons of cane syrup. That is a lot of syrup. Oats and millet to feed the horses, mules, milk cows, and hogs and cattle. But unfortunately, Dudley had to fight in the Civil War. He was drafted into the Civil War because it actually interrupted into the Civil War. Pursuit. He served as a captain in the Civil War, and so, as from 1861 to 1863, in the Civil War, wrote letters to his families with instructions how to work on the farm and how to keep the farm growing and producing and thriving. Alright, so as we move forward into the restoration of the Dudley family farm, right here, we have in 1986, the Florida Park Service purchased 232 additional acres of the Dudley Farm to preserve it. Royal Landscape as an historical state park and agricultural exhibit farm. This happened in 1986. Legacy lives on. Thanks to Miss Myrtle Dudley Farm. Dudley Farm is preserved as a living example of the Florida history, architecture, agriculture, and folk culture. Right here. So now it's preserved as a historic state park, and we'll be able to see most of the park as we go around to the different locations of the sugarcane, the smokehouse, and around the barn itself. Alright, and as we go across here, making our way to we're on Old Gainesville Road, and it says to watch out for fireweed. Fireweed have little hairs sticking up on the leaves, and it can cause skin irritation. So, it will last for several hours, but we're going to try to avoid those as much as we can as we go to the All Dudley Farmstead water is potable. Let's keep going when you're on the trail to the farm. Alright, so making our way towards our first destination here we're passing along the greenhouse. The greenhouse is just right over here, right next to the gift shop, and that's where the crops and all the vegetation and food was grown inside the greenhouse, along with the plants and other flowers. Now we're gonna go ahead and take a look. Here's our first stop. This stop here is not the sugar cane. Sugar cane is on the other side. No, it's the blacksmith. That's what it looked like. This is the blacksmith shop. The blacksmith shop is, of course, where they had cast iron, where they'd make kitchen appliances. Right here. This is the blacksmith, kitchen appliances, and different areas of kitchen tools, kitchen tools, from iron skillets to pans, pots, anything else you need, spatulas, anything you need to cook food after finished growing on the farm. Alright, so we're actually going to head on into the barn. A pretty butterfly flying away. Just reminds me of a botanical garden. Pretty. There's the chickens! We'll go see them in a moment. But this was the farmhouse. At the Dudley farmhouse. Let's go in. Can't go upstairs, but... yes. Reminds me of the old... On the farmstead. This was kind of the meeting room. Got a fireplace, an old piano. Probably didn't use that fireplace a lot. Other than the winters, maybe a little cold, but not much cold. And of course on this side we got the bedrooms, or well, the beds, and the somewhat of a crib, I'm guessing. Here. Can't go upstairs, it's closed off, but able to see the beds here. And the meeting room. And this one here is more of the bedroom. And a lot of bed sheets and clothes, all finely folded and stacked neatly on the shelf. Of course, they didn't have pens, so they used the old feather pen technique where they wrote out letters using a peacock feather and as a pen on old paper from tree bark, as well as the beds here. 2 beds. I like that comforter on this side, and I like the bed frame. Really nice. They got wash basins at the bottom there. Wash your face and hands getting up in the morning before they go to work on the farm. Got their old broom here. I'm going to sweep off the front porch. Not sure if this is the front porch or the back porch, but it is a porch. Got the rocking chairs and some small chairs for the kids. They also got the little wash tub to wash their clothes or bathe the kids in. We got kind of a cabinet to store extra kitchen appliances or bowls and plates they would use for dinner time or breakfast or lunch. Of course, you got a bucket of water to either water the plants or to do laundry. Alright, so, and here on the next stop, here is the sugarcane mill right here. Of course, every farmstead, homestead, and state park in the state of Florida or any will have a sugar mill. Majority. Well, at least the ones I've been at. Anyway, we have the sugarcane mill, of course. I explained at the one at Fort Christmas of how a sugarcane mill works and how it operates to grind up the sugar in the crystals, and it was a bunch like butter and milk and what in the rock would be crystallized. It would crystallize sugar as it grinds up into those pans. We'll talk about that in a second. But in the way it operates the sugar mill, sugar was grinded up here. It was grinded up here using this mechanism, using this machine. And this machine, very simple. You hook up a mule, a donkey, right here. And as it goes, as the mule began to walk, it would circle clockwise in a big circle. It would continue on around this way, probably a lot bigger than that. Way out here, it would circle around until the crystals became crystallized and grinded up into small little specks about this big around into sugar. And now, once that's done, and hours of grinding up that sugar, took about probably 5 to 8 hours to grind it all up, then it would turn into a basin. The basin in here. Now the basin, right here, this would use to grind it up. This would stir this. Even the kids on the farmland learned how to do this at a very young age. They would stir up the crystals using milk and butter to mix in with the crystals as it would come through here on this basin. Come in through, pour out into there, and it would stir up. It would grind it up, and keep grinding, and it would go all the way around. Then it would become like liquid, just be like a liquid, where the crystal, and it would also use to make taffy and candy. That's where the kids would be able to pull out the sugar, and that's where the term Laffy Taffy came from. Taffy came from. When they pulled that, came stretch. It's kind of like Play-Doh or slime now. It's what it felt like whenever it was already hardened and crystal here. Then they would come here. This is the big stir stick right here. This stir stick. You would come here. You would grind up the sugar. Rotate it. All around the bowl. And it would become there. Then it would become hardened. And as it hardened, it become stable. And that's how sugar was used back on the farmland after and became sweet. It was like and that's candy. It's sweet because it had sugar. Sugar is a sweet thing that's pleasing to a lot of kids. Like it. They like sugar. And that's how it became there. Alright, so as you see behind me on this side, there's the old well. Right there. Now this was the old well that they would use for clean, and it was clean water. They were one of the few Florida families that had clean running water dug from the well. And the well was, like I said, clean water used for bathing, laundry, watering, and cooking. With the old well here, you can see it's got a pulley system. Now, pulley system being used for the what they would do, they would drop down the bucket here, drop it down into the well to pull out the clean water. Once they got full water, they would pull this chain up and rope it back in, and they would probably do it about 4, 5, 6 times to get enough water to fill up the bucket, and then to fill up the wash tub to wash clothes or do anything that needed to be watered. Alright, so here, this is like the supply closet. I'll let you guys see what I'm talking about. This is just basically a supply closet where they kept all the some farm equipment and barn usage, like some of the ropes for the horses, the mouthpiece, the bit, some of the bags to put the different crops in. That's all this is. And a grinder right there. And so, I got 2 grinders. So, that's what's in that shed. We're going to make our way around. We're going to go back out and then go around the outside of the property. And take a look at some more historic farmland. Oh, wow. Should have chicken to feed.
Chicken. You guys can feed these.
You feed these chickens?
See? Chicken.
So where's